Welcome, gamers, to Basement Arcade Pause Menu, the show where we hit pause, sit back, and just chill. I am your host, Ben Magnet, and before I introduce today's amazing and most generous host, you're probably wondering, like, hey, the video looks a little different. The audio might, hopefully the audio doesn't sound too different, but the video is like a little weird, if there is a video at this point. Well, ever since we decided to do podcasting again, a certain service that we were using decided to up their prices to a point that myself, Sparks, and the rest of the Fake Nerd gang wasn't very comfortable with. So we've been trying to find a new workaround, find something different, and we thought we did. Turns out it didn't work, but thankfully, my guest today came in with the rescue. Quite literally, I am recording this in his studio. Technically, he is the host of an amazing podcast called Gamer Looks at 40. He is a video gamer. He is a great dude to talk video games with. I am so excited to have him on the show to talk about the good old days. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Bill Tucker. Bill!
I can't even comment over that after that introduction. That was an introduction and a half. Thanks, man. I am super glad we get this figured out, and I'm really glad to be here, man.
I am just so happy that the technical problems did not stop us from recording today, because I've been wanting to get back into the recording space and recording podcasts for a very long time, because I moved houses back in December. I've been going through a whole bunch of just getting of life stuff in January and February. And at the time of this recording, I'm starting a brand new job soon. So I have been just playing all over the bloody place. And one of the constants that I've been wanting to do again, because with Pause Menu, it's very much, there's no real set schedule to Pause Menu. It's very much, it comes out when it comes out. We'll do it when we do it. Mm-hmm. And the last episode I recorded was with G to the Next Level. And that was last year. I want to say maybe like last August. And we've been sitting on it because our old recording area, or not recording studio, or just virtual recording space.
Right.
Decided to raise the prices to a point where we're like, we don't want to pay that much. And it sucked because it was really easy to use and we just got so used to it. So, the hunt for new stuff continues. Yep. But that's a future Ben's problem. But right now, Bill, once again, I just want to thank you so much for lending your space for us to record.
Yeah,
and
man.
Before we get into it, because the topic today is the good old days. We're gonna talk about the good old days, because you know what? I think there are times we just need to sit back and just think like, man, it was great back in the day. And not to completely go blah blah on the future or on the modern day, because I would say there's some good that things have improved with over time. But before we get into that, even though this is not the first time you and I have podcasted together, I was a guest on your show, Gamer Looks at 40, way back then, or not way back. It was a while ago. A couple
years ago, I think, at this point. Yeah.
I think when we recorded it was a couple years ago, and then the episode came out I want to say a few months ago. But
okay, the way my show works is the time makes no difference. It's because I can record something 2 years ago and then use it tomorrow. It's very strange the way I do things on my show.
Because at the time of this record, of us talking, and probably when this comes out, you're finishing your journey into Final Fantasy. And because when we were talking, I think you were almost done with the Final Fantasy interviews, and now on your show, on your podcast, Gamer Looks at 40, it's going into the end of Final Fantasy 7. And here I am listening to this oh, he must have just recorded these interviews. I should message him, be hey, if you need anyone for Final Fantasy 12, I'm there. And when we were getting together to record this show, you literally said, and I quote, "I am all Final Fantasy'd out." I'm like, I don't blame you, bud.
I am a little Final Fantasy now. I haven't done any recordings for 12 yet, so you will definitely. I'm still debating how far I'm going to go with this madness. So just for those who may not be aware of my show, which is not a big deal, basically what on my show is we focus on stories and recollections of the past, and every episode isn't like this where it's like a one-on-one conversation. I have interviews with a bunch of different people. And then I take those interviews and I cut them up into little itty bitty bits. So I actually have 2 friends who help me with that. And then I take those bits and I make episodes out of them. So any episode of A Gamer Looks at 40 could have up to 12 different people sharing stories around one theme or one game. So right now we just finished Final Fantasy 7. There was 11 parts to it, which is madness. And the reason it's 11 parts is because I only do max hour and a half shows. with my format, since it's so broken up, I don't want somebody to be lost in the 2 hour and 20-minute mark. You know, I want everyone to get a fair shot at hearing their stories heard. So I'd rather have more episodes that are shorter than a long 4-hour episode, because I don't want people to get lost. I don't want the stories to get lost in the shuffle, because again, my show it's scattered. You know, it's kind of like a Ken Burns documentary where you're hearing like different voices all the time. But yeah, so that's kind of the way it works. And we're done with Final Fantasy. It was 11 parts of Final Fantasy 7. I'm currently doing some interviews for 8 and 9. I'm pretty much scheduled up for that. And then between then, I'm going to do a few episodes on collectors. And these are going to be like one-on-one conversations with people with very cool collections. I think people who collect have reasons for it, and they always have stories about those collections. Like, what about this collection means something to you personally? So I'm always trying to find the personal emotion, or I'm trying to find the emotional attachment to a game, as opposed to like, is it good or is it not? So
right.
And they're easier to do, and they're just one-on-one. Gives me some time to work on the harder episodes.
Well, if you do make it to 12, I call dibs.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm the only one who could talk about 12. No one else. No, 12 is my favorite Final Fantasy of all time. I absolutely adore that game. Yeah, I could go on and on about 12, but of course, if other creators do want to talk about 12, they're yes, let them. But if you need people to talk about 12, please put a Ben Magnet at the top of the list.
I have an Excel sheet with all of my guests and the things they want to talk about. I am adding you as we speak.
Hooray!
FF12. Yay. Boom. There it is.
Yay. Okay, but before we get into, us talk about the good old days.
Yes.
There's always one question that every single brand new guest to Base Arcade Pause Menu gets asked, and I'm going to ask it to you, good sir. Mr. Bill, how did you get into video games?
I was 6 years old. This is back in, I am 44, so I was born in 1980. My dad, I think my best friend Joey, who's been on my show a number of times, he had video game systems before me. He was a Sega kid. So he had a Master System. Yep, there you go. So he was always a Sega kid growing up. And there's actually an episode on a very early episode of the podcast, a Sega kid in a Nintendo playground. It's his story of being the only Sega kid in a playground full of Nintendo kids. It's actually a pretty interesting conversation.
Audio listeners, if you're wondering, I'm wearing my famous Sega Genesis hat that you can find on my Instagram. I'll probably a few times, probably quite a few photos of that on there.
It's a really good hat. So anyway, Joey had it. I probably went to his house, played Shinobi, probably Shinobi. That was his game. And I'm like, I want a video game thing. But all my friends had Nintendo. And this was probably 1986. I was 6. My dad got me for Christmas a Nintendo Entertainment System. I did not have the classic Mario and Duck Hunt combo, though. They got me. They were hard to come by. So I had the control. I think it was called the Control Deck, which came with 2 controllers, but no packing game. Ooh. So I never owned Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. And to this day, I've not beaten Super Mario Brothers, the original.
I'm the same.
Every year I share that with you. Every year I try on stream, and I do it with no warp zones. I want to do it legitimately, like I'm a dumb 7-year-old. And I've gotten to 8-2 successfully.
What is it with 8-2?
I don't know.
Get stuck there. Okay, unfortunately, I guess you could say I'm not that honorable, because I also do the same thing. Well, I'm not honorable in the sense of I warp zone the ever-loving crap out of that game. Every chance I can get the warp zone, I warp zone it, because I just want to say I beat it. The only time I say I beat it was Super Mario All-Stars, when that was added to the Super, because I was testing out my Famicom controller my Super Famicom controller when I brought back from Japan. But I rewound the ever-loving crap out of it just to get to the final screen. I still won't say that I honestly beat it. I cheated. I, of course, cheated just to get to that screen. But I have tried to beat the original Super Mario Bros. So many times. I love the game. It is a classic game. It is one of the most important video games to have ever been made.
Right.
Why can't I beat this damn thing?
Because I'm old, I think. I don't know. I'm just an elderly man at this one. I'm 44. I guess I don't have the thumbs for it. But every year, I'm due to try to get on stream. I might have to do that sometime soon. I'm due. But anyway, so
I need to watch that. I want to be there to witness this.
Oh yeah. I know I stream like once a week, and I don't really publicize it too much. It's my wife and I play Fallout on stream usually.
Nice.
That's kind of what we play New Vegas. But anyway, so my dad got me the Nintendo control deck with 2 controllers and no packing game. So he bought me Black Box Baseball, like the original baseball game, and Rad Racer. So those were the 2 games I had. And at first, I couldn't figure out how to play Rad Racer, so my dad did. So I watched him play, and then slowly but surely, I figured it out myself, and that was it. That was literally it. The game that really attached me to video games was Metroid, the original Metroid. That was the game that kind of like sparked the interest as more than just this is a toy. That's one of my many toys that I have knocking around the house. Playing the original Metroid, being able to explore and have that freedom of movement and shooting just tickled a thing in my, I guess at that point, 8-year-old brain that was really magical. And that was the game I think that really cemented me like, okay, I kind of love this. Mm-hmm. And I've had seasons in my life where I haven't played, like in college, I didn't play a lot, and I've had some ups and downs, but I completely missed the PlayStation era because I was a Nintendo fanboy, and I was not going to get a Sony anything. So that was not going to happen. But yeah, that's kind of how it started out. Yeah, Metroid was definitely the first game where I was like, oh wow, this is really, really cool.
That's awesome. And also, you mentioned that you were born in 1980. This is actually perfect for us because we have 2 totally different, in a sense of not just our ages, because I'm 34. I was born in 1990. So we have a 10-year gap between the 2 of us, because I can only imagine, and to me, this is like perfect. Like, this is the best time to have this like topic, because your good old days are much different from my good old days, but there are still some areas where we like meet in the middle.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And this is actually perfect, because you were saying that Metroid was the game that got you. Sonic was the game that got me into knowing like, oh, this is cool. But I feel like with Sonic the Hedgehog, it was more of a, it was more of a short attention span, I think, because I was barely a toddler when I first saw Sonic the Hedgehog. And I just saw, oh, this character looks cool. And for some reason, my little child brain just decided to latch onto that. And all of a sudden, I became a Sega kid without ever owning a Sega Genesis until one of my best friends buys me a Mini for Christmas years later.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I only experienced Sega Genesis games via the Sega Smash Pack on the Dreamcast, because I did own a console. I owned a Dreamcast when I was a kid, because there was no way in hell I was not going to let go of Sonic Adventure 2. Like, that Christmas morning was a really good Christmas morning when I got Sonic Adventure 2. And I got Sonic Adventure 2, Crazy Taxi. How my parents knew about Sonic, but Crazy Taxi, I'm glad they got this for me, because that Offspring song is seared into my brain.
Seared. Yep.
And it's like, seared. Man. And also just the opening is like, hey, it's Crazy Taxi. And it's like,
oh, yeah.
God, I love that game. I love that game. So yeah, like, it was Sonic the Hedgehog, but I think when games like really stuck as like, oh, they're just more than, high scores or Save the Princess, Kingdom Hearts did something to my brain. It fundamentally did something, and that's how I got into Final Fantasy, was because of Kingdom Hearts.
Gotcha.
I knew of Final Fantasy for years, and I always thought, oh, turn-based RPGs, they're stupid. It plays Pokemon for hours on end. Oh, Final Fantasy? That's boring. Only nerds like Final Fantasy. Oh, young child me, how little dost thou know?
I love that. I played the first Final Fantasy game when it came out. I was a Nintendo Power subscriber. So Rad. I had the Nintendo Power, and it came with a Final Fantasy player's guide. It just arrived in my mailbox. I actually did an interview with Gail Tilden, who was this is episode 100. This is my episode 100.
You got to talk to Gail, the editor at large of Nintendo Power?
Yeah, we talked for an hour, and we're going to talk about Pokemon sometime soon. I just remembered, like, I got to talk, because she's like, oh, I'd love to come back and talk about Pokemon, because she was responsible for bringing Pokemon to the U.S. This is why we have it here. So I got to talk to Gail. So that was my episode 100. That's like the top tier. Funny story how that happened. Wow. Actually, that took a lot of work to get. But anyway, I talked to her about it, and she's like, because I was in the middle of doing Final Fantasy interviews as well, and she's like, they were told Nintendo Power had a lot of editorial control over what they had on the cover. If it was a good game, they would give it like reviews. If it wasn't a good game, it would get like into Pack Watch or something. But they had a lot of editorial control, more than you would think. It wasn't just an advertising arm, even though the marketing department made the magazine. But they were told by Nintendo, "Hey, you're gonna do a lot of coverage on Final Fantasy. Like this is you are going to do this." And that's why, because they knew that Western gamers just didn't know what RPGs were, and they were really trying to push Final Fantasy to Western gamers, which is why I got a player's guide in the mail. And that's why I'm like, oh, this looks really cool. Maybe I'll get this game. And sure enough, my parents showed up one day for Christmas. And so I played the original Final Fantasy, with the guide, my Nintendo Power player's guide, which I still have somewhere upstairs. I still have my
better.
I still have my original Nintendo Power player's guide. And it's Final Fantasy has been a part of my gaming journey for as long as I've been playing. So I've started with that. But check out episode 100. It's easy to remember.
I need to, because
it's a cool interview. We talk a lot about the beginnings of Nintendo Power and some of the it's a fun one.
As a podcaster and an interviewer myself, just in talking to anyone from that era of Nintendo, to me is like, I thought, to me, not to throw him under the bus or throw his interview, because I was lucky enough to talk to Howard Scott Warshaw a few years ago.
Cool. Yeah.
And he's an amazing man to talk to.
Yeah.
I just loved it. And he was so nice and just like, hey, yeah, I made E.T. But he wasn't bitter about it. I think that's one of the things I love. But just even talking to anyone, like, my dream get is Tom Kalinske. If I could talk to Tom Kalinske about, the 90s and working at Sega, that would be my get. But talking to Gail, too, because I unfortunately did not get the power of Nintendo Power until I got my Wii. And it was just there. And my dad was like, hey, do you want this subscription? It's like super cheap. I'm like, yeah, I do. And because I knew of Nintendo Power, but I grew up mostly as a PlayStation kid, as much as because I liked Nintendo.
Right.
Mario was a big part of my life. We had Pokemon and a Game Boy. For us, Nintendo was more about Pokemon than anything.
Gotcha.
And like Nintendo was there, but it wasn't there in the sense of like we didn't get our first like at home Nintendo console. I want to say the NES, but it was it was after we had a PlayStation already. It was and I love telling the story because when I wanted my because when I got my NES for Christmas, I told my dad I wanted a Super Nintendo, and all he heard was Nintendo.
No!
So I got an NES, but of course when I open it up, it's Christmas morning in front of my grandparents in Montana, who are very like, you better be thankful on Christmas morning if any children throw a fits and they're not grateful, they're getting their presents taken away. And I was just like, panicking because I didn't want my dad to feel bad. But it turned into the best Christmas ever because my 70s or 60s, late 60s, early 70s something grandfather, my somewhere maybe in his 40s oldest like second cousin, they hooked up my NES to the TV, and all of a sudden they have a duck hunt tournament going on.
That's cool.
Because it wasn't out of the box. It was something my dad's sister had, and she wasn't using it anymore. So she was like, yeah, Ben can have this. All of her games. Why she had 2 copies of Super Mario Brothers 3, I don't know, but she did.
Okay.
But it was one of those things where at first I was like, but it turned into one of the best Christmases ever because the entire family got in on it and they wanted to play video games. I had to actually ask if we could have a turn because it was my system, but the family was using it.
I love that. I love how that turned into a really fun core memory. My friend Joey, which if you listen to the episode with Nintendo Kid on the Sega Playground, I think it's like 6 or 7, like it's super early, 4 years ago now in the podcast. And he tells a story where when his dad got him his Sega Master System, his dad didn't know you had to buy games with it.
Oh no!
He got a Sega Master System, but no games, because his dad didn't know. He just went and got a Sega. He got the machine, and luckily those systems came preloaded with games. So there's like 2 games that was preloaded on it that he played like crazy, but it didn't matter. He's like But he would always ask like, oh, can I play Mega Man? Oh, that's Nintendo. Oh, can I play this? Oh, that's Nintendo. And it was But to your point, it didn't matter because it was still an experience, and he still loved playing the games that came on until his dad was able to get him a proper game that he wanted, which was Shinobi. That was always his thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny you have a similar kind of experience with that. I mean, I remember the first time when I opened my Super Nintendo for Christmas, people will ask sometimes, "Oh, what's the best Christmas gift you've ever received?" My Super Nintendo, by far. And it's not even close.
Yeah.
It's because it was at a time I was 91, so 11 or 12. I didn't think I was going to get it. My dad was like, "You're not getting a Super Nintendo, just so you know. Just so you know." And I'm still doing the same thing with my son with like Switch and Switch 2. Like, dude, you're not getting this thing. Forget it. I'm trying to figure it out. We'll see about that. But it's one of those things where he was like, "You're not getting this thing. Don't expect it." And it was the surprise present at the end. My mom, I have video of it. If you go on my TikTok, there's a TikTok of me.
I gotta follow you on TikTok. Shoot.
Yeah, there's a TikTok of me opening. TikTok of me opening my Super Nintendo. There's the actual video because my dad was recording it, and I lost my mind. And I think back to that. Why? Like, why was that better than other presents I've received? And I think it's because it was a combination of innocence and freedom. Mm-hmm. There was the innocence where it was a no strings attached thing that I did not expect that allowed me to play new games and play Final Fantasy VI and then Super Metroid and all these games I fell in love with. Whereas if I got like a car for my birthday to now, I'd be grateful. I mean, I've gotten great Christmas gifts, but I'd have to be like, I got to pay insurance on this. And I got to keep it clean. There's responsibilities tied into everything I get now, right? There's asterisks. I received the PlayStation 5 for my birthday a few years ago, and I was extremely grateful. Like everyone in the family pitched in for it. Very grateful, right? But there's asterisks because I can't spend 8 hours playing this thing, you know, like I have a job and kids and all the rest of it. So I think it was the combination of freedom and innocence and availability that just made that so sweet and special. And again, I'm not saying other gifts I've received have been bad but nothing hit the way that hit.
Because that actually kind of brings into like one of the questions I have, like, what were your personal like good old days? I think everyone has a distinct core memory of getting that game console or getting that game that they've just been dying to have for the longest time for either Christmas morning, their birthday. It was the surprise. Because like you said with like your Super Nintendo, for me, like obviously the NES, that Christmas morning, that was, right. A mistake went to one of the greatest Christmases I've ever had. And just looking back on all the Christmases I have where I opened up and I got a game console, they were all super memorable because it's like you actually did. Like 2006, the Wii was one of the hardest systems to get. My dad got one. And he got me Twilight because I wanted a Wii for Twilight Princess. I wanted a Wii for all the other games that like I was eventually like Mario Kart Wii. That was a big thing. You know, Guitar Hero was coming out on the Wii, but I wanted a Wii so I could play Twilight Princess. And that Christmas morning, I got it. We hooked it up. And at first we got scared because we were trying to get past the button. We were hitting the A button and we were like, why isn't it working? We just didn't plug the sensor bar in all the way. And I was so afraid that my brand new console that my dad apparently hunted down wasn't going to work. We just didn't plug the sensor bar in all the way through. That was the only problem. And the rest of that morning, Wii Sports was the name of the game. I didn't start playing Zelda until everyone else was done. After Christmas dinner, everyone else was like, okay, we're going to play with our other presents now. And I'm finally playing Twilight Princess. Twilight
Princess, yeah. That's great. That's a cool memory. It's interesting when you talk about the good old days, and I know that's the topic of our show today. I have a different take on it, considering my show is nostalgia steeped. Like that, my show is nothing but that. I think nostalgia is a hell of a drug. Nostalgia, it can be. I don't like living in the past, which is interesting because I do a show that's all about talking about the past. But that's why I like to focus on stories, because stories are the building blocks to who we are, where nostalgia is more of this kind of like wistful, remember back in the day. And I feel like a focus on nostalgia can take us away from the cool things happening now. So that's why I think it's a measured drug. And I think nostalgia is good. I think it's great to look back and think. But that's why I like to focus on stories, because the stories are the building blocks to who we are. as opposed to like, oh man, I remember when I didn't have to go to work and I could just play video games all day. That kind of wistful recollection is okay, but I don't want to get locked in that because there are cool things happening right now. You know, I have two kids who are growing up, and they, you know, I watched the Nintendo Direct a couple days ago with my son. It was his first Nintendo Direct, and his excitement, you know, made me excited. Where I'd be like, you know, all right, it's fine, whatever. But his excitement made me excited, so I want to live in that moment in this life stage, as opposed to being stuck in an old life sage. But I do think nostalgia is good. I think it's good to look back and recollect and think, remember how awesome it was to sit there and not to do laundry. That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, as my one of my producers slash former slash good friend of mine, Spark Switty, once coined the term "nostalgia's bitch." Yeah, I am nostalgia's bitch. He coined the term one day when we were Christmas shopping for our significant others at a Target pre-pandemic, and they had like the little mini arcade games where you could play Galaga, Pac-Man, like those little LCD that there's just desk toys. It's like just these little fun things. I'm like, oh man, you know, they had Galaga. I was like looking through. I was like, man, this is so cool. And out of nowhere, he just said, "Ben, you really are nostalgia's bitch," and it stuck. Because anything that has to do with retro consoles, like you were talking about the Nintendo Direct the other day, one of my hopes / predictions was they were going to announce GameCube games for NSO. Surprise, surprise, they did. And Wind Waker. And not just Wind Waker, but also like the games that are going to release for the NSO, or at least on the GameCube when it does come out. Gale of Darkness, Coliseum, Mario Strikers, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, and I'm just like, all those GameCube games that are stupid expensive nowadays, I could just play. I could play. It's like, oh, but you have to charge your service. Shut up. I have access to them. I can play them. I know they're not mine, but I can actually play them.
Yes, I agree. You know, and it's not to make the conversation go everywhere, but that's fine. I know I think on the show we're okay with that.
Oh, the pause menu rants and tangents are not just welcome; they're encouraged, buddy.
They're encouraged. Yeah, I figured that. So I saw. I was just happy Wind Waker was available because my sons want to play it for a while. Because my son, he's really into Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. He's almost 9. My son's big flex though, his big retro gaming flex is he's beaten Donkey Kong Country. Beat it himself. Now, he beat Donkey Kong Country. He was 5 when he did it.
What?
5 or 6. Yeah, he beat Donkey Kong Country. Copious use of rewind on the Switch. Okay, modern.
He's a 5-year-old. That's fine.
He's 5. He is able to beat Donkey Kong Country on the Switch, and he's played like Link to the Past. He's played a lot of the older games, and he likes them. I got to get him on Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger. That's the next. I'll tell you that's actually an interesting story. Leading into the idea of nostalgia, but he's a big Zelda kid, so he's beaten Breath of the Wild, and he's working on Tears of the Kingdom now. But he's interesting because he just wanders around and does nothing, and I'm like, we gotta finish the game. Like, what's the next objective? Like, what's the next thing? And he's just walking around throwing rocks and knocking down trees and having a blast. And I have to kind of change that in my brain. I'm like, as an old school gamer, I'm objective based. I want to get to the next stage. I want to progress to the next level. I want to move forward. And my son is just a modern gamer thing. He's content with just running around the world, knocking down trees and building goofy things in Tears of the Kingdom, and loves it. And his thing is actually armor sets. He's really into his character's fit. Like he wants his character to look cool. He wants to get all the armor. So that he's one of those, which is interesting. I'm not. So anyway, diversion, but
bad respect for your son. That sounds awesome. Because funny, you were talking about that because there's like a few open world games that I absolutely will cling to that are some of the best games ever made. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom being one of them. Mostly Breath of the Wild because don't get me wrong, I love Tears of the Kingdom. Put a lot of hours into Tears of the Kingdom. But games like Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild, those games where there is an objective. And there's an objective you can meet, but also there's chances for you to explore, go dungeon crawling, go just like look around. You might find something new. And like Elden Ring's case is like, hey, you might find a better weapon, or you can grind and get XP and it's not going to punish you for it. And in Breath of the Wild, it's like, hey, you see that big ass mountain over there? What's at the top? Could be a Korok, could be a dragon. I don't know. Go look.
Yeah, and there's nothing better than when games lets you do that. When games reward your exploration and say, like, that's why I like Fallout. That's why I've always liked Fallout games. The same idea where, hey, I want to go over to that thing, and the game says yes. Whenever a game says yes to you, it's great. And the more the game can say yes to you, the better it is. And Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are exceptional at saying yes. Hey, can I knock down a tree and use that as a bridge to get across? Yeah. Yes, you can. Awesome. Thanks, game. Rewarding yeses is so rewarding, and that's what I think Breath of the Wild is probably my favorite Zelda game, and I've played all of them. Most of them.
I played a decent chunk, but for me, my favorite will always be Link Between Worlds for the 3DS, because that took me out of a very bad gaming funk that I was having, where I didn't know if I was going to continue to like, because at the time the PS3 was on its decline. The PS4 was, it wasn't right around the corner, but it was coming out. Yeah. But a lot of stuff back then, because I was also in college, but I was mostly playing like some PS2 games, but I was like, I don't know, like if games are for me anymore. I had my 3DS and I was mostly just playing my 3DS. And then Tears of the Kingdom, Link Between Worlds comes out. My mom was super nice, and because we were just like at Best Buy for something, and I'm looking at Link Between Worlds. I'm like, man, I really want this game, and my mom's like, I'll buy it for you. I mean, I know you're in your 20s, but you know what? You deserve something nice, so
why not?
I'll go. It's only $40. Let's go get it. And the second I started playing it, and once I just got into the world of Link Between Worlds, it just like sparked a newfound love for this medium that I have loved ever since I was younger. But going into adults, like, no, games can bring out these feelings, these emotions, and it's like everything about Link Between Worlds is amazing. And it will be my number one favorite Zelda game. The only other Zelda game that I have had those feelings since then was Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild reminded me the fun of exploration in the game, and I think, and I mentioned this during because I did do a very in-depth Zelda series a couple of years ago. I went through every mainline Zelda, just like I'm doing now with every numbered Final Fantasy. Although this Final Fantasy one is taking longer because I have just more people. It's just more people, and it's literally what it is. But I did a series on The Legend of Zelda, and what I realized by playing Breath of the Wild was this game seems like it's the realization of a dream. Like when Miyamoto first conjured up The Legend of Zelda, he wanted a game that simulated the exploration, the joy of just wandering around, going on adventures. And I think no other game in the Zelda series does that better than Breath of the Wild. And it's like the realization of a dream from 30 years ago. And so I really fell in love. And Breath of the Wild for me was interesting too, because that was when I played that in 2020, again, pandemic-ish, when my daughter was born. And it was one of those where I had it, I owned it, I had a Switch. I have a Switch, it's actually my son's now, but I had a Switch, and I was taking the 12:30 at night, or 12:30 in the morning feeding time, because I can stay up till 1 in the morning. I cannot get up at 3. Like that's just how my wife and we figured it out. She would go to bed at 9, wake up at 3, do the 3 o'clock feeding. I would do the 12:30. So I had like 3 hours where there's nothing to do, where I was by myself. We were staying at my father-in-law's house because they are helping look after my son. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to play Breath of the Wild. What better time? I literally have 3 hours of time where I have literally nothing to do while this kid is sleeping. And so I played that through a lot of the early months of my daughter's upbringing. And again, just one of those cozy things where it was like, I think of Breath of the Wild, that brings me back to that moment, hoping she doesn't wake up crying and screaming while I'm trying to take out do an assault on something.
You're in the middle of a fight with a Lionel. You almost got him dead, but your weapon's about to break, and all of a sudden the crying starts, and then you miss your last swing, and it's like, and all of a sudden, and then you just see the game over screen. You're just like, dang
it! All right, child. All right, little person.
Okay, small human, come here.
All right, come here, small human.
Try again later.
Try again later.
So you talked about how the good old days, it's nostalgia, but nostalgia is good to look back on, and the stories are the most important bit, not just because me being a millennial, and also in today's day and age, there's a lot of of us wanting to go back, us missing the 90s, us missing the early 2000s, the days where things were, playing outside until the streetlights come on, those classic things. Yeah. But any particular thing that you want from the quote unquote good old days to bring back to modern era, like something that something essentially, like for me, for example, like what I want to bring back, I want to bring back the days at Blockbuster.
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Going to, a Blockbuster, an arcade. I mean, I know there's like barcades and there are things like that, but they're not as widespread. They're not as mainstream anymore. Yeah. But what I do miss is, Friday night, Blockbuster Video. You're there with your parents. You can rent a video game or rent a movie, one or the other. Like with my brother and I, we got to rent two, and then we would flip a coin to see who would watch their movie or play the game first. Mm-hmm. And that's on it, like just that feeling of camaraderie, that feeling of going somewhere like it's Friday night. Where you going? We're going there. I kind of miss that. And I know there's other places that you could do, but really it's just like, because Blockbuster was like, it was a cornerstone for me and a lot of other gamers. Totally.
Yeah, we had a Blockbuster nearby. We actually had a Hollywood Video. That's where we went for everything. And I think it was a West Coast Video for a while. Then it was a Hollywood Video. Then it changed hands a bunch of times. But it was a local video game like rental store that we would go to.
Oh, my family has beef with Hollywood Video.
Yeah, I don't remember it. They changed hands a bunch of times, and I don't remember what it is now or what it was. But yeah, we had a neighborhood store. I think to answer your question, as you were talking, I was trying to think, all right, what's that thing I would bring back? And in your talking about video game stores and rental stores, I think I would like to bring back the sense of discovery. Yeah, I think the sense of discovery is not as precedent because we have so much information now to make buying decisions that I'm going to research a game before I plunk down $60 or now maybe $80 on it. I'm going to look into it and see, hey, is this something I'm going to want to invest my money into? It's kind of like why I like Steam so much. I'm a big PC player mainly. I mainly play on PC and Steam Deck. That's kind of just how I've evolved. But that's why, because I'll spend $10 on a Steam sale. Hey, this game's got like mixed reviews, but it seems interesting. Let me give it a shot. I think rental stores were very formative for me as well, not just for video games, but for movies. My brother and I used to go to the local Blockbuster while my mom and grandfather would sit in the Chinese buffet eating crab legs, and they would just be sitting there eating crab legs for felt like hours. And be like, Mom, can we go to the video store next door? Yeah, go ahead. Because they just want to sit there and eat crab legs, unlimited crab legs. And we would that was my early film education, just by boxes. Hey, what's this weird horror movie? Oh, cool. Okay, what's this weird movie? And reading boxes. And my brother and I would just walk up and down the aisles of Blockbuster, and there was a sense of discovery, right? Like, I didn't know if the Ren and Stimpy game was going to be any good. I rented it and to see, hey, it's a Ren and Stimpy game on Super Nintendo. Let's try it. Oh wow, it's terrible. Okay, and that was it. But like the sense of exploration and discovery just isn't as tactile and almost not as random. A lot of the great like little gems that I love were just because of accidents, because I do a series on the show called Tales from the Bargain Bin where we talk about games that you didn't expect to get but either liked or didn't like, and a lot of like little hidden gems. Like for example, the most recent one that's actually releasing tomorrow. It's not really a bargain bin game. It's a Ken Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball. And it's not really a bargain bin game but I just want to talk about it because I love that game. My brother and I have a long history with it. But games like Marble Madness and Journey to Silius and like Adventures in the Magic Kingdom for the NES. Ooh. Which is actually a solid game with a banger soundtrack. But it's anyway, so long story short, it was, I think, the sense of discovery. I think we're missing that. I think we have all the information we have is good, but we have so much information that we don't get to just discover things. Yeah. That's what I would like to return back to.
Yeah, and even when you were talking about your sense of discovery, it immediately flashed me back to when I was going through Blockbuster and one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games. Actually, it is my favorite PlayStation 1 game of all time, Mega Man Legends. Ooh, I didn't know about it. I didn't know it existed. It was a complete happy accident because I saw Legends 2 on the shelf, but behind it was Legends 1.
Oh.
And I took it home, played it, and because I was used to, because I love Mega Man games. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog got my start, Mega Man made me stay. I loved playing Mega Man 8 on the PS1. That's where I really cut my teeth into Mega Man, was with Mega Man 8, Mega Man X4. And I would be playing Legends, and I'm like, this was so different, but at the same time, it was different, but it was still Mega Man, and I liked how different it was. It wasn't just, oh, go to the right and jump and shoot. It was, you have a 360-degree view, you still gotta jump and shoot, but it's a lot different than jumping and shooting.
Yeah.
And like, oh, your Buster sucks. Let's upgrade it. Let's, like pick and choose. What do you want? Do you care more about power or rate of fire? It was essentially, it was an RPG that I didn't know. It was like an action game with RPG aesthetics that I didn't know was a RPG. Fell in love with it. Couldn't beat a certain boss when I was renting it. Like 2 or 3 years later, they had Mega Man. They had Legends 1 and Legends 2 on sale for like $10 or $15 at my Blockbuster. Bought them both. Well, eventually, because the first one I saw on sale was Mega Man Legends 1. Bought it instantly. Sometime later, Mega Man Legends 2. Bought it instantly.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I love those little discoveries, man. I love those. There's a game for the NES called Clash at Demon Head, which is this random little like guy shooting weapons anime style thing, and I loved it. I borrowed it from a friend, and like I just what's that?
Is that where Brian Lee O'Malley got the name for that band and Scott Pilgrim?
Yeah,
Clash of Demon Head.
Yep.
Son of a biscuit.
Yep, that is a really obscure NES game reference, and it's actually a really solid game. It's actually super fun, and you got like it's not to get into it, but it's a fun, solid game, but it's random, obscure. I remember when Scott Pilgrim they mentioned that Clash, they was like, "Yeah, I know exactly what that reference is. I have that."
I just thought it was an indie band name because I would be reading like the Scott Pilgrim books, and they say, "Hey, Kid Chameleon," or they would have Sonic and Knuckles and stuff, and I'm like, "Hey, I know Kid Chameleon. I know Sonic and Knuckles. Yay!" Me being the Sonic fan, Clash of Demon Head. I'm like, okay. Now I know that it's actually based off an NES game.
It's an NES game.
Dang.
That is a deep cut for Scott Pilgrim. I remember him from the movie. I was like, oh, I get that reference. I felt really cool. I was like, ooh,
learn something new every day.
Totally, man. But yeah,
amazing
sense of discovery, man. I used to borrow games from friends a lot. I used to go and lend them this, and I would get this one back, and a few of the games I forget to give back. I'm not a stealer. I'm not a thief. I can be a forgetful borrower. The difference. I don't intend to steal your game. I just forget to return it. But not maliciously, because it's just there, and I just forget to return it. I have a game in my collection. I'm not collection, but I have the Orange Box on PS3, which of course is Portal and Half-Life 2, that I forgot. I still have it, but I borrowed it from a friend back in New York, and I just forgot to return it. So if she ever wants it back, it's been 15 years, but yeah. So, but yeah, I used to borrow games from friends. And yeah, rental stores were a big deal. That was just going there to see what they had. The best part about rental stores was when I would go there with a game in mind and they didn't have it. So now I got to figure out something else.
Yeah.
That's where you get those fun little things like, oh, Final Fantasy VI is gone. We don't have any more of those right now. Okay, what am I going to do? I don't know, Ninja Turtles fighting game? Okay, it's Ninja Turtles. And then you're like, okay, this is a game. Or Clay Fighter. That was a big one. Clay Fighter. Yeah. It's like, okay, I'll play Clay Fighter. And I'm like, but it's a game. And it was my weekend, So a lot of those just random games were cool. That's how I wish that Discovery was back.
I think there was like a few times where we would buy game because for the holidays, like going on the sense of discovery, because there are games I remember playing, specifically renting from Blockbuster, and there are times where we would rent those games multiple times because we had so much fun. I remember we rented Ape Escape a few times.
Ooh, yeah.
And I was so happy to finally get my own personal copy of Ape Escape. And I was like, because I love that game. And then I remember this Bugs Bunny game. I found it at there was a gaming expo back in January. I did pick it up because it was a little on the expensive side for me, but at the same time, it's one of those things like if I ever find this again, I might pick it up. It was Bugs Bunny Lost in Time.
Okay, I don't know that one.
It's a fully voice acted Looney Tunes video game where Bugs Bunny gets thrown back in time, and he has to. It's a bit of a collectathon where you have to find clocks, and it's this whole thing, but it's all voice acted by at the time the original Looney Tunes voice actors.
Right.
Like the prehistoric era has Elmer Fudd with a giant caveman mallet trying to beat you up, and of course the Old West Yosemite Sam. The 30s has those two gangsters, the one who's like his hat covers his face. And the bubbling big sidekick Muggsy, I think his name was.
Yeah, Muggsy.
It's like Muggsy, idiot, or something like that. It was just this fun, I wouldn't say stupid game. It was just fun little game that we would rent and we would just like play because it's Looney Tunes in a video game, and I love the Looney Tunes. So I'm like, this is amazing. And if I find it at a convention again, I might pick it up because I have some good memories with that game, even though I only played it like 2 or 3 times growing up.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. I remember, I'm just trying to think of like the rental games. I did a small series on my podcast about the days of rental stores. So that's like 3 or so episodes about the days of renting video games. I'm not sure if I did multiple episodes on it, but I at least have one episode out there where me and a bunch of people just do this kind of thing, reminisce about the games we rented and fell in love with. I remember trying to get Final Fantasy VI, renting Final Fantasy 3 at the time for the Super Nintendo, but Final Fantasy VI in Japan. I remember renting that a bunch, hoping my save would still be there, and it never was. Never was. Ever. But I played that opening dozens of times. I just played it again because it was so fun and good. That was a big thing until I actually got my own copy, and then I was able to actually play it properly.
Oh God! Begging my parents for a memory card because they did not understand what a memory card was. Because when we got our PlayStation, we got Twisted Metal 2 and Crash Bandicoot 3 as like our first games that year, or at least when our parents got us the PS1. And when we would play Crash Bandicoot, we realized that we needed to save. We needed a memory card so we could save our progress, and instead of us watching the opening cutscene over and over and over again. And our parents were like, "No, I don't need to buy something else to save your game." And we were begging them, and I don't know what it was that finally convinced them that we will never beat this game unless we have a memory card, because we cannot, because they only gave us an hour to play. We could only get to this spot. And those games, you couldn't, we're kids. We are elementary school children. We don't know what speedrunning is. There is no way I could have figured out the Super Mario 64 glitch to get into the final boss fight with only a star. It's like, I couldn't figure that out. All I know is like crash, X do jump, this do spin, this do that, but I can only get to here, and there's more of the game to play. Mom, Dad, please spend $20 so I can get a memory card, please and thank you.
Please. Oh, that's so funny. That is a really funny thing because with my kids, we set limits with games, and we set limits with like on weekdays, on things like Mondays and Wednesdays, he can play for an hour of screen time. On the weekends, he can do 2. But he's lucky he's not my parents, because my parents, when I had a limit, it was over. I don't care what I was doing. The hour was up. Now I understand that if he's in a boss fight, I'm like, hey, well, you can finish your boss fight, obviously. Finish fighting that Lionel. I'm not going to make you pause it here. Finish what you're doing. If it takes an extra 15 minutes, that's fine. I'm not going to
get to a save point and then you're done.
Get to a save point. Yeah, next save point. So it's luckily for him. I understand how these things kind of work now. So, all right, at least I understand the way it was. My parents didn't get it. But they didn't grow up in that era. The idea of a video game. What do you mean you can't just turn it off and go back to it? No, Mom, I'm at World 8-3 in Mario 3. I'm on World 8 in Mario 3. I got to finish this now. I used to leave the system on. Mom, system's on. Don't touch it. Please don't touch it. No one touch this system. It's paused, and it'll be paused for 24, 48 hours. It's paused. Do not touch this thing. And then I would go back to it when I have my next hour available to play. So it's interesting how that all kind of works out.
I was in an air. I forgot where I was. I think I was going to about to go through customs in like Singapore or somewhere. I was playing Pokemon. I just got off the plane. I'm playing Pokemon just to, I just had a horrific, super long flight, and we're about to go through the thing. And my dad says, "Hey, save and quit." I'm like, "I can't." What do you mean you can't? I need you to save. Turn that off because we're about to go through security. I'm like, Dad, I'm in a Pokemon battle. I can't save. He's like, yes, you can. I'm like, not in a fight. I can't.
I'm in the middle of a battle. I can't.
And then he's like, the second I heard him use the second I heard him say, Benjamin, off.
Oh, yeah. William Walter Tucker, would you? Okay, sorry, Dad. Okay.
The second I heard him say Benjamin, game was turned off. I'm like, yeah, it's off. Sorry, please.
Sorry. It's so funny how that works out. It's funny you mentioned Pokemon. I was never a Pokemon person because when Pokemon came out, that's like 96, 97, I want to say. Like
98. It came out in Japan in 96. America didn't get it until 2 years later. So we got it in 98. Yeah.
So 98, I was a senior in high school. I was graduating. I was just starting college. So I was kind of aged out of Pokemon when it was big. I remember it being everywhere, but I never played it. I had never touched it until my son got into the card game a few years ago. And then like, well, these things are actually kind of fun, and this is actually kind of cool. To this day, I've still never played a Pokemon game. Like, I've played a little bit of Sword and Shield, and I've dabbled with what's the picture one for N64?
Oh, Pokemon Snap.
Pokemon Snap. I've played around with that, fiddled with it. But my son, I'll tell you the Pokemon story for my son. He was at a summer camp, and one day he came home from like the summer camp. It was a day camp, and he came home and he's like, "Daddy, I want Pokemon cards." Like, would you? Like, oh, there's this kid in camp. He has Pokemon cards. They're so cool. I want Pokemon cards. Now I know this world. I live in this world. You can't fool me. I've just seen dollar signs in my head. I'm like, all right. So I'm like, I don't know. Okay, we'll see. The next day he comes back. He's got a stack of them. He's got like 15 cards in his hand. Daddy, look, these are Pokemon cards. I want Pokemon cards. You gotta get them for me. I said, okay, well, okay. If you do your chores this week, right? If you do all the things, I'll see about getting you like a set. But if I'm going to start playing Pokemon cards with you, I want you to learn the game.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be that dad. He's a child that I have to care for. I'm like, it'll help you learn to read. It'll help. I'm thinking about that stuff as well.
Yeah.
So he did
also,
all the stuff.
Math. There's a lot of math. There's math involved. I play the game competitively, and even times where I have my Charizard out, I'm like, how? Because I have a Charizard archetype deck, and whenever my opponent takes prize cards for them, Charizard's attack grows stronger. So it's a very risk reward type of thing. But especially in like the middle, because it's like, because it's 180 base attack, but then it goes up by 30 points. So I have to constantly go like, okay, 180 plus 30, because the only time I know where he does max damage is when when my opponent has 2 or 1 prize card left. It's like, okay, 2 is 300, 1 is 330. 330 normally one shots a lot of Pokemon, everything. But it's the ones in the middle. It's the ones in the middle where I'm like, math.
So he did. So I got him like a starter kit. I actually went on Twitter and I was like, my son wants Pokemon cards. What do I do? And my tweet was kind of like panicked, and actually CJ from Player One podcast, he responded to my thing, and he's like, or you could just use it as an opportunity, because I was like, what am I getting myself into? He's gonna want these cards, and he's like, you could actually see as an opportunity for him to like learn the value of money and learn to read, and he actually softened me to it. Was like, oh yeah, you're right. I could use this as a good learning tool and something fun. So I got him like the like academy. It teaches you how to play the game, the Battle Academy. The cards are numbered. It walks you through the initial game. I'm trying to learn how to play this game with my then 6-year-old, and it was epic fail. So my wife and I that night, we played Pokemon for that night, because I figured I got to learn how to play this game so I can now teach my son how to play it. I can't learn this and teach this. My wife and I played Pokemon for like 3 hours at night. We had a blast. It was so fun. So we still play here, there, and everywhere. He's now a little more into the collecting side of it, but I got him his first graded card a couple years ago. It was a graded Charizard, because he loves Charizard.
Of course.
Do you play the mobile game?
I do. I play TCG Live. I do have Pocket. I haven't touched Pocket in a while.
Okay.
Mostly because for me, TCG Live is much more in turn with the current tournament scene and the current tournament rules. Like the meta is like, what's good against like certain deck archetypes, like what's a good play, what's not a good play, what cards you should or should not have in your deck. And also what I enjoy about TCG Live is that there's no real money involved. You just download the app. The only real money is when you buy a physical pack of Pokemon cards.
Yep.
You get the code in the back of it, and that gets you digital cards. Yep. And to me, that's just like, I don't technically have to spend real money because, you know, the gems and stuff in the game, they redid their whole currency system. So there's only like 2 certain currencies, and one is for aesthetics. The other is for actual cards and like booster packs and stuff like that. Yeah. But you do not have to spend any real money on TCG Live, whereas Pocket you can. And I'm like, I don't like that.
I play a lot of Pocket. I downloaded when it first came out, and so I play a lot of it. I have not spent. If I've spent $5 on the game, that's probably the extent of it. I don't spend money on. I just can't mentally do that. It's like it's not a physical thing. I can't do that. I've been wanting to do an episode though on mobile because I know it very well, and I want to talk to someone who knows the card game well and have like this compare contrast. So maybe I'll hit you up for that if please. Yeah, because I want to do that for one of my patron shows. But anyway,
yeah, please. I learned the Pokemon card game because I'm pretty sure I told you the story when I was on your show.
Yeah,
when the tables were flipped essentially, because I got Pokemon trading card game for the Game Boy Color at Portland. That's where I learned how to play the game. I mean, of course, the rules have changed since then, but even nowadays, it's like the rules haven't changed that much. And actually, when you were talking about the Battle Academy, that actually made me think of another question of what do you wish? Because I have 2 separate questions about the good old days.
Sure.
One of them is, what do you think has gotten better over time? Like, what was an aspect of like video games or even just like stuff back in the good old days that has actually improved over time? And what do you wish we had back then?
Well, I'll start with what's improved over the years. Availability. I love the fact that my son can pick up the Switch and play Link to the Past. That's cool. That's really cool. People have opinions about emulation and whatnot. I dabble in it. My thing on an emulation is if I can buy it legally, I'll buy it legally. If I can't buy it legally, or if it requires me to go to like a convention to get a game, then I'll just download it. That's kind of like my litmus point. But I love the fact I've talked to people and they've said, what do you think the golden era of video games was? Like, honestly, we're kind of in it now. Because now I can go and get any game pretty much, within reason. Whether I get it via emulator or if I buy it, I can get the Switch online. All the classics are there. I don't know. I think the availability of games is great. And I know right now we're in the middle of a huge physical versus digital conversation, especially with the Switch 2 release and how physical games are going to be more expensive and that whole conversation with physical versus virtual. Not to get into that conversation, I just love the fact everything's available easily, relatively easily. If I want to play Final Fantasy VI, I have the Pixel Remaster. I can get it. I download it on my Switch or Steam Deck or whatever, and now I can play this world-class legendary game. And back in the old days, it wasn't that way. It wasn't as available. So I think I love the availability, and I do respect collectors who hope physical sticks around. I don't want a world where we just have digital. There are so many parts of the world that don't have good internet, right? And if we remove physical, that is excluding a very large portion of the world and the country. There's lots of places in the United States that do not have broadband internet yet, that's a shame, right? I live in the Austin, Texas area. I have perfectly fine bandwidth. I can do all the things. But if I was in, somewhere in North Dakota or, Montana, probably not, right?
Shout out to Montana. My mom just moved back to Montana.
There you go. So it's one of those things where I hope physical sticks around because I think there's value to it. I totally understand that if I'm buying a digital game, I'm literally just buying a license to play the digital game. But at my life stage, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with saying, If it disappears from the PlayStation Store and I can't download it again, that sucks, but I don't have room for things. I'm just not a collector like that. So I think availability is the thing I like about this modern era.
I would say multiplayer has improved. Now, I do love your about talking about accessibility, because you're absolutely right. I completely agree, and I don't know how many times I've written articles for like the Old School Gamer magazine blog, or just like going on tangents about how we are in a golden age of retro because of how accessible things are. I mean, yes, to put the legality or the legality of certain emulation tools, because you're on TikTok, you've probably seen 1.5 billion of those TikTok of Game Boy knockoffs that have X amount of games. Yep. My future brother-in-law, he got me an Ambernick for Christmas.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, that's awesome. I'm of course going to use it. I'm going to try. I just haven't turned it on yet because I'm still in a little. I mean, of course, when Delta came out because I have an iPhone, like Delta came out, and I love the Delta app on my iPhone. That is amazing. But I do agree, accessibility is great, but also multiplayer is something that I will also say, like multiplayer games, being able to talk with friends who don't live in your immediate area or across the country is just amazing. So, like, for example, like when Xbox Live came out, not to completely say, hey, Xbox Live is like great, because it has problems.
Sure.
We've heard the jokes about how kids today probably would never survive in an Xbox Live lobby of Call of Duty because of reasons I'm not going to say, because I don't want to get yelled at. And also I do not condone that type of language.
Indeed.
But the fact that, like, because when my brother was in the military, we were able to play games through Xbox. And my brother lives across the country. I'm in California. He's in Florida. He called me up one day, or actually, we played games multiple. Sorry, I'm starting to stumble over my own words. For Christmas, he got me Dark Souls 3. He got me a copy of Dark Souls 3 for Christmas and said we have to play it. We haven't touched it for months. And one day he calls me and was like, "Are we ever gonna play Dark Souls?" I'm like, "You know what? Let's. I'll play on my PS4 right now. We'll start playing like this weekend." And it was amazing. I had one of the most amazing experiences playing Dark Souls. He then sends me $20 and says, "Bloodborne is on sale. Buy Bloodborne." We play through Bloodborne.
Cool.
And because of him, I fall in love with FromSoft games. So I call him up. I'm like, "You're getting Elden Ring, right?" And we try to play through Elden Ring. But then, out of the blue, he calls me up and says, "You play Dungeons and Dragons, right?" I was like, "Yes, I have a D&D podcast and all this stuff." He's like, "What do you think of Baldur's Gate 3? I was like, "Well, I haven't gotten it yet." He's like, "You want it?" I'm like, "Ooh. Are you saying what I think you're saying?" And we started playing Baldur's Gate 3 together, and we haven't played for a while because, our schedules have kind of been upended.
Yeah.
But being able to play video games with my brother, even though he's not physically next to me, because I think one of the things that has evolved, and yes, I do miss couch co-op. I do miss playing games on the couch. But at the same time, we don't always get that, because as we grow older, life gets in the way. My friends need to move away. One of my best friends moved to Connecticut. I have other friends of mine who they've jumped around, and it's one of those things where we can't all meet at a place and play Smash Bros. Or do stuff. Right. But the fact that we have access, like you said, we are able to play games across the country or sometimes across the world is amazing. So while I do miss, playing Guitar Hero, playing a bunch of multiplayer games here at the house, it still helps hearing, like, playing Mario Party with my fiance and her friends, and hearing her friends over the phone, because we can still talk to each other and play with each other, and apparently cuss each other out when we steal each other's stars.
And it's fun. I was never a multiplayer person, and I'm still not, to be honest with you. I don't. Only multiplayer game I've really ever played was Final Fantasy XIV. I spent about 6 months where it was my first and only MMO, and I was between jobs. I was kind of sort of between jobs, and I had nothing to do all day but play Final Fantasy XIV. So I spent 6 months heavily invested in that game, and it was interesting playing with other people. I've always been a solo person when it came to games. Even growing up, my cousins, we would play GoldenEye, together on the old N64. And I don't like to lose. and I don't like to lose in public. My joke is always, the only person who needs to know how bad at games I am are the game over screen. That's the only thing that needs to know how bad I am at this. So it's interesting. I've never had that competitive edge, and it's something, as you were talking about with your brother, it's reminding me like, man, I could probably do some stuff with like my brother or my son. We play sometimes together. We play Shredder's Revenge together, and we played through the whole game, and we loved it.
I love Shredder's Revenge. I love that game so much.
Great game. So you mentioned it reminds me that I should do that a bit more. And now I have the technology, I have the ability to. I want to play. It's funny. Someone mentioned this. My best friend Joe Coro. He's been my best friend since third grade. He lives in Jersey still. I'm in here in Texas. Someone was like asking me, have I ever played Halo? I'm like, I've never played a second of a Halo game. I never had an Xbox, anything. And they're like, you and Joey should do a stream where you guys play through Halo together, because it would be a lot of fun to virtually play Halo together. So I would like to do that as like a series. Just him and I playing Halo together, a co-op, would be actually a lot of fun. Now I can do that. That's a thing I can do virtually without any big deal. So anyway, I think that's a good thing that we can connect virtually like that.
One of my best friends, the one who moved to Connecticut, when he and I were still when we were still in the same state, at least, because we still lived very far apart. We met each other in college, and there was one weekend where he and I just sat down and we just co-opted Halo 3 ODST together. That was his favorite Halo game of all time is Halo 3 ODST. I think my favorite Halo game is Halo Reach, but we played Halo 3 ODST co-op. We played Halo 4 co-op. We were just like talking about like the Halo games, and then one of my best friends from high school, when he got his Xbox, he got the Master Chief Collection, and we were playing like the first Halo game co-op, and there was a achievement that popped out that said Standard Operating Procedure. And that has become a thing between, like, whenever, like, there's a collectible show here in Southern California. If you ever come to Southern California, Bill, hit me up. I'll take you to this grand wonderland called Frankensons, which is essentially a nerd swap meet. It's great.
Sweet. Sounds awesome.
When we go, we just talk about how it's like Standard Operating Procedure. And I told that to my best friend on the East Coast, and the same thing. It's like, yeah, Standard Operating Procedure. Let's do this. And
awesome.
Because even though that happened because we were sitting together next to each other for co-op, I will be eternally grateful that technology has advanced to a point where even though thousands of miles distance us, I could still talk to him as if he was in the room next to me. Granted, I can't see him unless, we have FaceTime up or something. But at the same time, even when you're on the couch, you're staring at the screen and you're trying your best not to screen peek, because my God.
Oh man, screen peeking. That was such a thing. Especially GoldenEye. Oh, my cousin.
I am so thankful I was never accused of that. I certainly did it. Especially while playing.
Shameless. How did you know to put that remote mine right there? And like, oh no, just good at games. Like, dude, I saw you. I saw you do that. Come on.
I never played GoldenEye, but my brother and I did have Turok 2 Seeds of Evil on the N64.
Oh, that's cool.
And we would play Turok 2, but we would only play with certain weapons available, and there's this one-hit kill gun called the Cerebral Bore.
Yes.
It's this crazy weapon. And I would like, once one of us got it, the other would just run away. And I would, of course, look at a screen, try to figure out where he was, find him, and get him. He's like, "Did you look?" I'm like, "No, I just found you, dude."
I know the Cerebral Bore very well. I Turok 2 as well. My brother and I played it as well on the N64. And boy, oh boy, the Cerebral Bore still rings in my head, no pun intended, as just one of those finest weapons I've ever wielded in a game. The Cerebral Bore. Oh, look up the Cerebral Bore if you haven't. You don't know what we're talking about. It's wild.
I need to replay the Turok games badly. I have access to him because, look, I know the guy behind the Turok games is a total jerk and gross.
Oh, really?
At least I've heard, because he was
Okay,
also one of the guys behind Retro Studios, but he did some really shady stuff.
Oh,
such as running an adult, softcore adult site out of Retro Studios off Nintendo's dime, and when Nintendo found out, they kicked him out, and that almost closed Retro Studios, which gave us one of the greatest gems of all time, Metroid Prime.
Yeah, and that's actually, I wanted to talk to people about that game, because Metroid Prime is one of those miracle games that shouldn't be as good as it is, but wow, is it great.
My fiance started playing it because during the direct she saw how cool Prime 4 looked, and she was like, I want to play that game. I'm like, you should try Metroid Prime. I have it on the Switch, and she's been playing it, and it has been. And let's just say, how many times I've re-fallen in love with this woman is too many to count.
Oh, that's awesome. Is your fiance a big gamer in?
She games. She's not as big of a gamer as I am, but she does have a fondness, and she does love games. Like, she loves Animal Crossing. When Animal Crossing came out, her friends got for her birthday, and of course, it saved both of our psyches during a certain time in 2020. Mm-hmm. But we do play games. Like, when she was watching Direct, she was interested in Mario Kart. She thought Donkey Kong looks great.
Yeah.
When I bought my Switch, there would be times where I was off on the weekends, and I'm like, I have the whole day to play video games. That's all I'm going to do. I got my chores done during the week. I'm just going to do nothing but play Breath of the Wild. And I would get a text from her saying, please do not play until I get home. I'm like, why? And her response was, and I quote, I want to watch you play.
Oh, that's so cool. That's cool.
Well, we would play co-op when we got Mario Odyssey. We would co-op, and during this direct, she was a big fan of Soul Calibur back in the day. I love Soul Calibur. That's like my second favorite fighting game. Marvel vs. Capcom, Soul Calibur.
Wow. Okay.
And with Soul Calibur 2 coming back on the Switch, or coming up for the GameCube NSO, I'm like, yes, because I love Soul Calibur 2.
Yeah.
And we would poke fun at each other because I do have 6 for my PS5, and she hates it when I ring her out. She hates it so much. It is the funniest thing ever. Whenever I knock her off the ring, she gets so mad.
That's funny. My wife, she's not a gamer, to the level like, she has a few games she loves. She has a few, like, she grew up, she loves Yoshi's Island. Growing up, she played on Super Nintendo. She loves Mario World. She's still very good at Mario World. Portal. Me and her played Portal together. We have a whole story about us playing Portal. The first time we played Portal, we were severely hungover. It was my apartment in New York, and I had this game, and I'm just like, what do you want to do? Do you want to do something? And we were both just shot. It was like a Sunday after a very long Saturday night / Sunday morning. And we started just playing Portal, and she fell in love with it. She fell in love with Portal. So she likes Portal. Right now, she's into Fallout New Vegas because we watched a show together. Because I said, James, I have to watch the Fallout show. I'm not a big TV watcher, but I got to watch the show. She watched with me and loved it. She's like, oh, this is great. Like she's like, I think I might want to play one of the games. I'm like, do you want to play New Vegas? Do you want to play New Vegas? And of course, I have it like modded. I like 150 mods running on. I love New Vegas. It's like one of the top 5 games for me. And so we started playing New Vegas, and she had never used mouse and keyboard for a game. And now we finished New Vegas on stream together. So we've been streaming for a while. And now she has my old Steam Deck, and she plays it on her own. She's probably putting like 150 hours in New Vegas. And now she's on her second run of New Vegas doing a Melee run. Like, it's really cool. So now I get to sit next to each other and play games, which we never really did before. So she has to select ones, but it's really been fun to watch her like experience games and like realize what's fun about games, like the exploration and all that good stuff. So
I feel like I might have I don't want to say corrupted my fiance, but I want to say, like, after being with me for as long as she has, because we've been together for over 10 years now, she is definitely, her gaming tastes, I don't want to say she's never had bad gaming tastes, but her tastes have grown. Like, she never would play a Metroid game before. Now she's playing Metroid Prime, and I'm just there helping her. We have also co-opted games together. Like, one of our crowning achievements, the two of us, is when we co-opted Cuphead together.
Oh, that's cool.
We beat it. we stopped at the last boss of the DLC, but we have beat every other boss because it was just one of those things where we're like, we're done. We co-opted Super Mario 3D World. We tried beating Champions Road. We beat every other level, but Champions Road just keeps giving us that Champions Road, man. But we've also beaten Wonder together. We co-opted Super Mario Wonder. It is just being able to play. Like, one of her crowning achievements is when I was at work one night and she was trying to get through Professor Carl's robot in Cuphead. Mm-hmm. She hates that boss. That was one of the bosses that was giving both of us like just such a hard time. It was that and Bonnie Von Bon, which I had other colorful words that rhyme with witch for her, because that was one of the bosses that took us so long to defeat, and when we finally got the knockout, we were yelling at the top of our lungs. Nice. And then we had to shut up because it was 2 a.m. and we were going to wake our roommates up.
Nice.
But she texted me because she was just playing it by herself, and it was like, I want to say 10 o'clock at night. I had 2 hours left of my shift, and then I got this text from her saying I beat him. She beat it all on her own, and I was so happy and so proud. And when we beat the devil together, we did it together, because there have been a few times where she would die and I would finish the boss off. Like, it was right at the end that she just could not get that pixel perfect jump, and she would die, and she was like, avenge me, finish him off. And I beat the boss and we both move on, but we were able to beat the devil together. Both of us lived, and it was like, mwah, chef's kiss.
That's amazing. I've watched a lot of Cuphead. I tried playing it. It was too frustrating for me. I played it. I started playing it during a vacation. It was like a winter vacation over Christmas or something. And was one. And actually, this links up to another nostalgia story, so we can kind of go back to the nostalgia world. But I started playing it, and I'm like, this is amazing. I love this. The art direction, like, this feels great. Cool. All this good. But I just was not in a mode where I wanted to be frustrated. I was like, I'm on vacation. I'm supposed to be chilling today right now, and I am not chilling with this game. So I just put it down and haven't picked it up. I'm actually playing Celeste right now, which is another one of those games, but at least it lets you start over immediately when you fail, and I'm in more of a headspace right now for that. So I'm playing Celeste right now, and that's actually awesome. It's great. But
I need to play Celeste.
It's great. It's really cool. And so anyway, let me tell you this story. Go back to nostalgia.
Yeah.
Because a big conversation I've had with people in the past when it comes to old video games is you love it because it was your childhood. You love it because you remember what it was like when you were a kid. And I'll tell you a story that debunks that very, very easily. Because a few years ago, I was in Colorado, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and my wife's parents, they wanted to have this like dream vacation at Breckenridge in Colorado. Now, I am not a skier. I snowboarded a bit when I was like younger. I will never strap another plastic thing to my feet again. That's a whole other story. I am 44 years old. I don't need to hurtle down a mountain and kill myself. It will never happen again.
Also, you never know. At the end, it might come out and eat you.
Yeah, there's
I'm still traumatized by that damn demo I told you about when we were talking about old PC stuff from Bluesky. I hate that Yeti. I hate him.
The Yeti was my profile picture for a long time on Twitter and other places. Anyway.
Damn Yeti, man. That damn Yeti.
So we're in Breckenridge, Colorado. They rented out this gorgeous house because there was a bunch of us there. They rented this gorgeous house for the week. It was on the mountain. Just kind of walk a bit. There's a gondola thing that takes you to the mountain and does all the stuff. It was amazing. And there was a big like a media room. It had a pool table and had seats and had a TV, the whole thing. And my cousins, or my son's cousins, they were younger at the time. They were, I think, 10, 8, and 6 maybe. I think that's right. Or something like that. They were younger. And they had just gotten their Switch for Christmas. They had never had a Switch before. All they wanted to do was play Mario Kart. Much to the chagrin of the parents who spent quite a lot of money on this dream once-in-a-lifetime Colorado vacation for the whole family over Christmas, right? Over New Year's, actually. And so they're like, you can't sit here and play video games all day. You can do that at home. We're here. We're going to go skiing. We're going to do all the things. And I was sitting in the media room playing Chrono Trigger on my 3DS. I was just like, that's one of those games I've played so many times. I can just pop it in. Doesn't matter where I'm at in the game. I can just pick it up and go. And one of my cousins, comes over, one of the kids comes over, looks over his shoulder. Oh, Uncle Bill, what are you playing? I'm like, oh, I'm playing a game called Chrono Trigger. It's an old game from the Super Nintendo. They start watching. Oh, who's that guy? Who's that guy? And I'm in Magus's castle. First time in Magus's castle.
Ooh,
so
okay.
It's a great atmospheric thing. And then another kid comes over. Then my son Kim comes over. Before long, all 4 kids are huddled around me, watching me play Chrono Trigger, enraptured in this game. Just amazed, like asking me, who's this character? What's the story going on? Well, this guy called Magus, and we're in this castle, and there's time travel. And they're like, Uncle Bill, please don't play this without us. We want to watch you play games. And it reminded me that good games last forever. Good art lasts forever. So when we talk about nostalgic games and nostalgic video games, yes, there is a sense of connection to childhood, but they're still really good games at the core. And you could be a 7-year-old who's playing Mario Kart for the first time, blown away by the visual, and then boom, watches me play Chrono Trigger and says, wow, this is awesome too. Like the gap is bridged based on the quality of the game, not the fact that it was back in my day. And I think that's a really, really cool piece of that puzzle.
I think even with when games do get upgrades or updates or stuff like that, I will champion the original Pokemon games till the day I die.
Sure.
But if someone comes up to me and asks, oh, I want to play these older games, what's the best way to play them? I will forever say look, I grew up on the original Game Boy. Or not the original, I had a Game Boy Pocket. Mm-hmm. I remember getting Pokemon Silver will for always be my favorite Pokemon game of all time. I will die on the hill that Gold, Silver, Crystal are the best Pokemon games. Full stop. Do not fight me. You will lose. But if they want to play those games today, I will point them to Fire Red, Leaf Green for the original edition, and I will point them to Soul Silver, Heart Gold for this next gen, and then the Game Boy Advance games for if they really want to play the GBA ones for Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, they can, but Omega, Ruby, Alpha, Sapphire, because I will say that those games, especially the GBA ones and the DS ones, they have brought so much life improvements to the originals. I will always have a soft spot for the original. Always have, always will. That's what I grew up on. Mm-hmm. I am officially a Gen 1er. But I will not say that those are the best way to play the Pokemon games. Not even close.
Yeah.
We were so limited to the things at the time. We were so limited to... We didn't even have color screens until the Special Pikachu edition.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, once again, if they really want to play the originals, I will not stop them.
Right.
But there are better ways to play those games.
Yes.
Like you were talking about Chrono Trigger. And I want to tell you this little story.
Go for it.
I never played Chrono Trigger when it came out for the Super Nintendo. I never owned a Super Nintendo. The only real Super Nintendo I ever did finally get was my Super Nintendo Mini that is out in my living room at the moment. But of course, when I really started getting into Twitter, I finally found my gaming circle on Twitter. I found Gamers Week. I found you. I found so many other people who love the retro video games, who love video games in general. It's I finally found my people. One game was constantly going around, and that was Chrono Trigger. Early on in this podcast, I was talking to the Well-Read Mage. He would say, hey, my favorite Final Fantasy game is Chrono Trigger. I'm like,
yep.
I've never played, but I'm not going to argue with you because I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Right.
And then I finally buy myself a copy. I get a really good deal for one on eBay, and I have it for 2 years, and I never touch it until finally I'm homesick with COVID. Missing my best friend's wedding. So I was able to watch it through my laptop, which I was able to be there, but I wasn't there. So I'm just upset and mad. I'm like, I'm going to pop in Chrono Trigger finally. And 2 hours into me playing that game, it hit. I'm sitting there, I'm playing this, I'm like, I get it. I understand it. I know why people love this game. The time travel aspect is amazing. Finding out who Magus really was a gut punch. And I am so happy I did not challenge to fight him. Yeah. Seeing Robot build the forest or make sure to plant the forest. The only thing that made me so mad was spoilers for Chrono Trigger listeners. The only thing that made me so mad was I couldn't figure out how to save Lara's mom, or what's her name? The science one, the one with the gun. What's her name? Luca. I wasn't able to save Luca's mom. Right. Like from her accident, because I didn't know you had to push the LRA and spell out with the button inputs, because I was like, where's the keypad? How do we do this? And I didn't. And of course, I'm sorry, I did use like a walkthrough guide, because with those older RPGs, I love them, but a lot of times it's like, where do I go? Point me in that direction, please.
I ain't got time for this. Where do I go? Got time for
Yeah, it's like, just point me in the direction and I'll figure it out. That's really just like, go this way. Cool, go that way. Oh, dungeon in there, let me go to dungeon. But hey, side dungeon there. Cool, side dungeon first, then there. That's all I really use guides for. And maybe a few boss strats if I really am having trouble. Right. But I understood it. And then I beat it, and I think I got like the quote-unquote the best ending, because, you know, Chrono and what's her name got married. You see Frog as a human in his timeline. Magus is on the hill. Luca is still doing stuff with Robot. I was like, this game was amazing. And then my finances took a turn, and my bills needed to get paid, so I had to sell it.
Ooh, yeah. It happens.
The worst part was, Bill, is that it had the poster.
Ooh. The poster. You had an actual copy, like a proper copy of it.
I had a the outside of the box was kind of beat up, but the insides were all pristine.
That's amazing.
Chrono Trigger specifically for the DS, because I have seen screenshots of the Chrono Trigger on like the Super Nintendo, and I would definitely say I like the DS one more, because, you know, the maps are easier to navigate.
Just easier.
And also it's like the touch screens, because like being able, especially with that type of ATB system, because I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with ATB systems, like mostly from Final Fantasy VII, because my first Final Fantasy that I played was 10, and that you got to think, you got to strategize, whereas with 7, it's like go, 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 go.
Yes, correct.
It's turn-based, but go, 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 go.
Go, 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 go. Yes.
But with Chrono Trigger, just that hit different. That hit so hard, and it was so good.
Yeah,
I'm mad at myself that I had to sell it.
That's a bummer. I mean, it's one of those things where Chrono Trigger on the DS is the way to play it. That is the ultimate version of that game. You should not. I mean, if you can get your hands on it, that's the version to play. But like you're talking about older games like original Final Fantasy. Like, I would never tell someone to play the original Final Fantasy 1 on the NES. Play the Pixel Remaster. It's good. Yeah,
my personal. This is how I played it because I have it for the GBA. I haven't played it yet on my GBA, but I found out at a convention it was $50 CIB, so I bought it. Cool. But my personal best way to play the first Final Fantasy, the PSP port.
Interesting. I never played that one. I had the GBA version, and I have the Pixel remasters, of course. But I did play the GBA version, which has 1 and 2. And I remember playing 1. I remember really liking it on the GBA. I've never done the PSP version, so I don't know.
I haven't played the GBA version yet, because I had a modded Vita until I had to unfortunately sell that too. And one of the things I wanted to play was the original Final Fantasy on the PSP, because I heard the PSP port was one of the best ports, because it has, you can save anywhere, has a lot of quality of life improvements, and also just the pixel, the sprite art. They redid the sprite art for the PSP version, where it's like the original monsters, but they're more crisp and cleaner, but they still give you that old school pixel feeling.
Nice.
And it is, it's a little harder to find nowadays, but if you have a PSP, I think the game is not super expensive secondhand, but it is worth it.
Yeah, I don't have a PSP, so I wouldn't be able to, but I'm just curious. That I know people. I'm sure I should probably get my at some point, but that's cool. I've never played that one, but so to your point, like, I think these modern rehashes or remasters are great. It allows the quality of life stuff. You don't have to grind through Final Fantasy 1 on an emulator on the Nintendo. It's, you want to go for it, but boy, oh boy, it is not nearly as fun and enjoyable as experience as if you just play it on a modern or a more modern setting.
If I ever get like a better streaming setup to like live stream games, especially with my mini consoles, because I think that like having the mini consoles is a perfect way to stream video games. Because the original Final Fantasy is on the NES Mini, I don't think I will ever play the original Final Fantasy from the NES. I'll probably play the Pixel Remaster, and I'll definitely play the GBA version, but I don't think I'll ever touch the NES version. Mostly because it's not because it's like, oh, you just don't want to play because it looks bad. It's like, no, just because it's a much fun and easier experience on the other systems than it is on the NES. Like, hey, it's the first one. It sparked a generation of gamers. It created an amazing gaming franchise that is like one of the most important franchises in all of video games. Yep. But my goodness, is that thing rough around the edges?
Oof! It is. It just is. And it's tricky. Again, I played a lot of those early ones for the Final Fantasy series, of course, and I did them on the Pixel Remaster because, yeah, again, older kids, carting kids to this place and that place. I don't have the bandwidth to sit and grind out those levels. So
yeah,
no, I agree with that, man. For sure.
Yeah. So we're coming up on time for a little bit, but there is one question that I do want to ask you before we before we're done here.
Yeah,
that sounds so mean. I am so sorry. Wow.
I'm done with you.
No, I'm sorry, Bill. That did not come out the way I wanted it to.
It's all good.
Dang it, there are times it's like, hey, I did a good interview today. There are other times it's like, why the heck did I say that?
Why did I say those words? Yeah, it's all good.
Why did I say those words? I want this guy to come back on the show, dang it. But Bill, what are your personal good old days? What are the days that when you think back, they're like, those were my personal good old days? Because like I said earlier, you and I have a 10-year gap, 1980, 1990. So to you, what was like your personal, like, these were some of the best, like the best times in your gaming history?
Gaming history?
Or just for you, like, just like when you were like, man, how can it get any better than this? How can games ever get better than this for me was the first time I played Mario 64. Okay.
Mario 64. Remember, again, back in those days, I went from a Super Nintendo to an N64, and the generational leap, that leap from the 16-bit era to the PS1 and N64 era is the most dramatic leap in gaming history. There's never been a more dramatic change. We were going from 2D to 3D. We were going from FMVs, maybe if you had a Sega CD or somebody who had one, to better full motion video. You went from Final Fantasy VI, which was, again, it's my favorite Final Fantasy, which is great, to this literal cinematic Final Fantasy VII, like this tech demo. So the jump from 16-bit to the 32/64-bit era is the largest leap in gaming history. There's never been one that was more dramatic than that. And so for me, when I went to a kiosk at like a toy store or someplace, or whatever place I got video games, and I sat down and I held an N64 controller in my hand, and I was just running through the courtyard of Mario 64. All I did was just run through the courtyard. I just ran around and jumped around in 3 dimensions. Wait a minute, I can intuitively do backflips and swim and jump. I spent an hour there. I mean, I remember just playing in that playground and thinking, the games will never get better than this. This is it. Games will never get better than this. Now, of course, we've gone more advanced, but that sense of freedom, like that unlocking from 2D to 3D, and how intuitive the N64 made it, because remember, we were doing that. Like Tomb Raider was out by then, but that was still very brick-based and block-based, and I didn't have a PlayStation. So for me, just going to that extra dimension with that stick, people dunk on the N64 controller all the time. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah,
the tactility of it.
I love that thing.
I love it, and because it was a new dimension of play. Like it was a new dimension of, wow, their Mario game has like a little story to it. It's not just go through the levels and try to get to the end and get all the coins. There's a little story that Lakitu, you can change the camera angles because the Lakitu is doing the camera work. And I don't know. I think that was the moment, one of those like, wow, this is awesome. This is incredible.
You get to the painting and start having trust issues because it's Princess Peach. The closer you get, it's Bowser. And surprise, you get dropped.
Yeah, and you just fall through the floor and you go, wow, now I'm doing this now. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be my top tier. Games will never get better than this moment. As far as just moments in general go, I'm a type of person who forces myself to try to live in the moment and appreciate the time I'm in now, because the time I'm in now will is going to go away at some point, and there's cool things happening now. So whenever I think about the good old days, I always think like I'm kind of in my good old days. As challenging as it is to be a parent, a husband, and working, and all the stressors of modern life, I truly believe that the best place you are is now, because that's the experience I get now. So I don't like to live in a nostalgic world. But if you're going to talk about like just like that moment of video games, you're like, I can't imagine the world getting better than this. That's mine for Mario 64 for sure. No question.
How do I answer that? Dang it. You were talking earlier about the intro. Now it's like you just gave one of the most beautiful answers I've ever heard in my entire life. But my goodness gracious, that is, oh man, because to answer my own question, for me, it was the generation after that. Whereas the good old days was late 90s, early 2000s. Like maybe around cutting at like 1995, cutting off at 2004. And because for me, that was like when video games, like the Pokemon craze, everyone was going crazy for Pokemon. You had for me, like the jump from the Super Nintendo to the N64 and the PlayStation wasn't really a big event. But the first time I saw footage of Sonic Adventure, the PlayStation 2, for me, that was how did we go from here to here? Like I will never forget my brother and I playing a PS2 game, because my dad had a friend of his, a work friend. He had a PS2. We hadn't gotten ours yet, but he had like NFL something. And we're playing an NFL game, and we're just looking at it as like the players look like they're real. I mean, of course, you go back now with like from the current Madden to back then, it's like, how could you think that? But
right.
At the time, it was one of those things where at the time it was the most amazing thing. And then and I mentioned Kingdom Hearts earlier. That was when, to me, games weren't just like, time wasters or high score getters. I mean, yes, there were stories in games like Ape Escape, Mega Man Legends, Mega Man X4. Yep. But when you were younger, you couldn't really grasp what the story was.
Right.
Here comes Kingdom Hearts, a game on paper should have never worked. Disney and Final Fantasy smushed together.
Yeah. Right.
Like how? But it does.
It does.
And me being a Southern California kid who grew up 20 minutes away from Disneyland. Fell in love with this game because your kids were Disney kids. Well, of course we like Disney, and it's like there's a game where you get to fight the villains, not just like little like like the older games where you throw apples or something.
You throw apples in Aladdin, yeah.
Shout out to Super Nintendo Aladdin, but you actually get to fight them. And me being, I don't want to say a violent kid because I don't think I was a violent kid, but being a more action-oriented kid, it's like, you mean I actually get to sword fight with Maleficent? I get to beat her up in her dragon form? I actually get to go toe-to-toe with Captain Hook, who at Disneyland pushed me around as a baby? Give me! That's actually true. I have a photo of it on my phone. I was helping my mom, and she found the photo.
That's cool.
Kingdom Hearts did something where it's like games could be more than just, push button, do thing.
Yeah. Yep.
It was like, here's an emotional story. And then that opened a world for even more emotional stories. And it helped me find the stories in the games. Like, I knew there was a story in Sonic Adventure 2. That was, I was somewhat paying attention for it. I felt bad for Shadow, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's like, once I finally got to the end, it's like, I just want to play it so I can hear, live, and learn again.
Yeah.
That's how I was playing the game.
That's fair. Yeah, the one for story for me was Final Fantasy VI.
Nice.
Final Fantasy VI was me when I that was one of the ones where I was like, oh, okay, the games can have a story. Like that was it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I have never played a minute of Kingdom Hearts, and Mike Alberton from Games My Mom Found is always asking me, "Hey, Bill, when are you going to do a Kingdom Hearts series?" And my answer is always never, because I've never touched those games, and I don't think I could do it. And I can't. There's so much Kingdom Hearts. I can't get started.
Now,
I don't know.
As someone who loves Kingdom Hearts, I even have a Kingdom Hearts tattoo right here.
That's cool.
How much that's my first video game tattoo. Awesome. I want this whole arm to get sleeved up, but that's my first video game one.
That's fair.
I will say the barrier of entry is low because thankfully you can play all the Kingdom Hearts, or at least you can get the whole story on your current console. So hallelujah, that's there.
Right.
But if you don't like Kingdom Hearts 1, you're probably not going to like the rest. And I will say, because I've been with the series since day one, I am like a Kingdom Hearts stan. I played 99% of the games. The only ones I didn't touch were the mobile ones for reasons. Cool. Mm-hmm. But look, I understand the story does get a little wacky. I love Tetsuya Nomura. My brother, you gotta rein it in sometimes, man. But look, as someone who does love these games, I will say that there are criticisms. There are valid criticisms of it. Mm-hmm. But if you want to give it a shot, Kingdom Hearts 1, you can probably, if you don't like the gameplay of the Chain of Memories, just watch the cutscenes. I'm not going to be upset. I'm pretty sure a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans won't be upset.
Sure.
Kingdom Hearts 2. If you play/experience those 3 games and you like them, keep going. But if you're not vibing with them, don't worry about it. Interesting.
Yeah, one of these days, like, it's funny. Every once in a while, he's always like, "Dude, you gotta do a Kingdom Hearts one." I'm like, man, it's like Disney and Final Fantasy. I don't know why. I know literally nothing about it. It's literally, I know there's a Keyblade, and there's a guy that people were excited about when he came into Smash Brothers. He's the leader dude.
I was so happy when Sora was announced.
Sora. That's it. Sora.
Hey,
I've seen those.
I was, because I was still working my horrible shift, and then I actually woke up that morning to a bunch of messages on my phone because I was in a group chat with the rest of the fake nerds, and they're like, Ben is going to be so happy when he wakes up.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool, man. Yeah, maybe one day when it turns to a gamer looks at 50, who knows? Maybe then. I've had people ask me, what's going to happen when you turn like 50? I'm like, dude, if I'm still doing this when I'm 50, like, I don't know.
That is a valid question. Are you going to change it to gamer looks at 50 for your 50th birthday, or are you
probably not? Well, I can't. I didn't think I was going to do this show this long. I thought this show was conceived initially as like a limited run. I was going to do a year an episode. So it was going to be like 1985 was one episode, 1986, 1987, and memories of those years. And in my first 4 interviews, I realized very quickly people don't think in terms of years. They think in terms of games and experiences. Mm-hmm. So that's why I abandoned that. And when I pitched it to my wife, like, I'm going to do another podcast. It's just going to be a year. I think maybe a year. And it's been 4 now. So
surprise!
Surprise is how it works. And 140 something episodes later. Yeah, but that was the initial idea for this show, was to do it year by year and be a limited run, like get up to a certain year and be done with it. 1 episode a year, and it did not. It turned into something totally different, as shows tend to do. So
yeah. Hey, Basement Arcade Pause Menu came out. It's a spinoff of a spinoff. Because we created the YouTube channel so we can put more like video game content, let's plays. Like we have a bunch of, like October, my friends would love to get me and play a bunch of spooky games, and I get scared silly. And then it's like, I just want a place to just talk about video games in a more relaxed setting. And all of a sudden, Pause Menu was born, and all of a sudden, this is like not to throw shade at fake nerds. I love to do it in fake nerds. Yeah. But man, this is just like I said, hit pause, sit back, and just chill.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. I love the format, and I love getting a chance to just talk games. You know, for my show, again, I'm always interviewing with a purpose. Like there's things I need to get, and again, it can be very conversational. Obviously, that's why I like doing Tales from the Bargain Bin, because they're half an hour, they're very short episodes, but there's only so much you can talk about Marble Madness. And then so then we just go into random. Hey, what else who made Marble Madness? Oh, Milton Bradley. They made video games. Damn, what else did they make? Oh wow, they made that, and then just go on to weird tangents. That's how I found out that the Barbie video game for the NES was actually cited in a Supreme Court case about games catering or trying to entrap females, like games as products, or it was cited in a Supreme Court case. That terrible Barbie game that my aunt bought for my sister, who could care less. So guess who got to play Barbie on the NES? Me and my brother. We played it because it was a game. It was just a game that was there. My sister had no interest in it whatsoever. So anyway, that's why I like about the kind of the more rambly conversations. But doing this is fun because this is like a treat. This is like, cool, we can just talk.
Even talk about those old games, because I remember like when my aunt gave my dad a bunch of her NES games. Like we had the classics, Super Mario Bros, the Duck Hunt cart. We had Super Mario Bros, Duck Hunt Track and Field cart. We had Super Mario Bros 3, 2 copies. I don't know why, don't ask. We had Xevious. We had another shooter. We had a bunch of we had the like Donkey Kong Jr. And then we had a bunch of LJN games. Like we had LJN Major League Baseball, which was there. We had Wheel of Fortune, which was there. And then we had TNC Surf and Board Designs.
That game's so good. That's a good game.
I could not finish and play that game to save my life, but man, I have a soft spot in my heart that when my fiance and I went to her best friend's wedding in Hawaii, we went to a TNC store and I bought a TNC shirt. But I asked them, I was like, do you have the one with the game cover on it? And they're like, no, we don't. No. They were like, they shut that down quick.
Wow.
And I'm like, the second I asked them if they had a t-shirt with the game cover on it, just in case there's like some like, I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know what it was, but the store employee I asked, she was like, no, don't. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to take this other shirt instead. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. I don't know why I just turned into a scary conversation. But okay.
I don't know what I did. I don't know if TNC was so mad about it. I don't know the history. That's something I should probably look into. Thinking about it now, because that has such like an iconic cover that there are you go on Amazon, you can find a t-shirt. I kind of do want a t-shirt of that someday.
Yeah.
Even though I am not the biggest fan of the game, because when I would play it, I hated it. It was
TNC Surf Designs. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was just one of those games that we didn't have the manual for it, and even if we did, we elementary school children, we barely read through it. Right. We were mostly looking at the pictures, even when we would buy our Game Boy games and take them on the car ride home, and we would look at the instruction manual, just like see the pretty pictures, and then not really read what was inside.
That's funny. I love that. I'm going to look into this a little bit. Maybe there's a story. I would love. Speaking, I don't know why surf is coming up to my brain. I watched Surf Ninjas for the first time, I think last year, for games my mom found for Mike Alperton's show, and I loved it. I thought it was so charming and good. I want a T-shirt that just has the evil villain logos on it. It just says whatever that logo for the evil villain with the half face. I just want that logo on a T-shirt with nothing else. So I just want someone to see that shirt and be like, oh, I know what that is. And now I have an instant friend. I love shirts where I can just make an instant friend because they get the reference. And do
you know how many compliments I've got on my Blockbuster shirt alone?
Oh my gosh. I would stop you and be like, dude, I love that shirt. That's fantastic.
Dude,
I would stop you in the street.
I got this from PRGE when they had like the last Blockbuster had, because you've been at PRGE before, correct?
Yes, I went 2 years ago.
No. Was that the same time I went?
I didn't go last year.
Because I went in 2022. Yeah, that was.
Yes. Okay, so it was not the same time. No.
It wasn't the same time. But yeah, because the first time I ever went, they had the thing there. I was like, oh my God, because I loved Blockbuster. That's one of the things I missed from back in the day. And they have a t-shirt, and it says on the back, the last Blockbuster, Bend, Oregon. And I even called a buddy of mine who went with me. He's like, do you want to rent a car and drive out to Bend? Like, how far is it? He's like, dude, that's like a 5-hour car ride. I'm like, nope, not doing that.
Nope, that's good. Not worth it.
They didn't have to because they brought their stuff over anyway.
That's
so
cool.
I'm like,
that's cool.
Berg, this is. I went to a local coffee shop to pick up myself and my fiance some coffee, and I'm wearing this T-shirt. And the guy opens the window, sees me, he's like, "Blockbuster! I love Blockbuster, dude!" That's great. I have made so many friends just wearing this Blockbuster T-shirt. It's fantastic.
I love it. That's great, man. Very cool indeed.
Well, Bill, those were pretty much all the questions I had for you, my man. And I think that would be a good spot to end it. So where can people find you on the internet, my friend?
On the internet, I mainly I do more Bluesky than Twitter now. Twitter's become I don't know what Twitter's become.
Okay, now double check to make sure I am following you on Bluesky, because I'm afraid if I didn't, because I did the same thing. I'm still technically on Twitter, but I never go on that anymore. I post, so basically if you want to follow my stuff, I'm mainly on TikTok these days, actually, and Bluesky. But you can just go to a gamerlooks40.com 40 that has all of my everything, links to everything. I'm socially active, mostly on TikTok. I post probably once every 2 weeks. I'll post a video, and Bluesky. I don't have time for social media anymore. I just don't have time to post all the time. But if you want to get in contact with the show, just go to a gamerlooks40.com. There's a section for full series. So if you want to binge the Legend of Zelda series or binge the Final Fantasy series, that's all there in one playlist. So everything is there, and you can just go there and not have to search around the pod feed or search around the pod player.
You can go and check it out there. Yeah, I'm a fan of the show. I've been doing it for 4 years, so I better be at this point. But I think it's interesting to hear other people's stories, and that's I try to focus on stories, and when the show is working, it's focused on people's stories and recollections, not so much nostalgia, like, oh, why this game was good. It's how did this game affect me? How did this game change me, or things of that nature? So yeah, that's what I try. I try to do it.
Also, there's a certain episode where a certain someone was on there talking about how he played Doom on his parents' Windows 95. That's me.
That's right.
That's a pretty good episode. Not to toot my own horn. Actually, no, that's a lie. I am tooting my own horn. I don't care.
No, and you did a whole conversation ourselves. Episode 115 is the conversation with you and I. We had a solo conversation. It was one of those where like, hey, let's just talk and have one of these type of conversations. So we talk about the old PC. Yeah, that was episode 115. So
yeah, I love how we started off. It's like, hey, we'll talk about this and Final Fantasy, and then it just dovetails into something completely different. And
I love it because we talked about everything other than Final Fantasy. It was a great break because I've done probably, I'm not trying to exaggerate, I must have done at least 60 interviews for the Final Fantasy series so far, and there's only so much you can talk about it. Yeah. Again, I'm taking some breaks as we do this now. And
here we are. We talked a little bit about Final Fantasy today.
Yep. Yeah, I love Final Fantasy. Again, I love Final Fantasy. It's a formative series for me, but boy, oh boy, talking about it for almost over a year now.
As long as you have, I would be Final Fantasy out. I mean, even I'm playing through Tactics on my GBA. I was playing Echoes of Wisdom on my Switch because I'm like, I want to play this. I want to play a bunch of other RPGs. I want to give my Switch some love. I've been doing a lot of stuff on my PS5. And all of a sudden I'm like, I haven't touched Tactics in a while. I'm just going to play. All of a sudden 44 hours into Tactics Advance, and I'm just like, I just want to beat this damn game. I've had it for years. I've never beaten it because of reasons, but now that I'm older and I could understand dialogue better, and understand how to play the game better. So now it's just one of those things like I just want to beat it, and then I'll go back to Zelda. But I also have other games in the backlog. So yeah. But
the backlog never ends, man.
It never ends. But honestly, that's like one of the things I'm totally okay with. But yeah, go follow Bill. He's awesome. Check out his show. You could definitely check out episode 115. Yes, I'm biased, but also the other episodes are great. I have been paying attention to the Final Fantasy episodes, especially the Final Fantasy 7, because I love this Final Fantasy 7, but I do agree with some of the one who kind of, I forgot his name off the top of my head. Barry. I wouldn't say he tore it apart, but he does have valid criticisms of it.
He has valid criticisms. We actually recorded another interview a couple days ago, and he asked me, he's like, so how was the reaction to my episode? I'm like, you got a reaction. There were some good ones, and there were some people who are not too pleased. So we had a good laugh about it. But I try to catch all the viewpoints now, and he has an interesting viewpoint, a little more negative than others, but I think they're valid. I think he makes some good, valid points. So
and also I do remember like back when people were trying to play 11. I wanted to play 11, but then when I was like finally getting into social media and getting with my nerd friends, a lot of people had like Cloud, Sephiroth, Cloud. I'm like, there was a lot of that Cloud, Sephiroth stuff going on. Totally. And I didn't know who Sephiroth was. Right, I didn't know who he was until I played until I fought him in Kingdom Hearts, and I'm like, who is this guy? Who's this dude? It was like, why is his music so good? Wow, why is he so powerful? I just got one-shotted. What the hell?
Lovely. Love it.
But yes, go check out Bill. Check out his podcast. It's an amazing podcast. Go follow him on all the socials. And of course, if you haven't been following me, listeners and viewers, I am Ben Magnet. You can find me on the internet at BenMagnet27, Instagram, Bluesky, TikTok, still technically Twitter. And also you can find me writing for Fusion Gaming Magazine, Old School Gamer Magazine, GoNintendo.com, and of course, being a player in the Dungeons & Dragons real play podcast D and Dark, where at the time of this recording, our finale is well underway.
Ooh, lovely.
But I will say there's a few episodes left to go because it's a multi-part finale. If you've been with the show from the very beginning, grab your tissues. That's all I'm going to say. But I will say there is a season 2. We just don't know when we're going to start that because our Dungeon Master needs a break.
I can imagine. How long has this campaign gone for?
It's gone for over a year and a half.
Oh, man. I know nothing about D&D. I've never done it, but I respect it immensely. It's D&D style, not to make the episodes over long, but D&D is the kind of thing I think I would love to do, because that idea, that concept of like making a character and just like living in this story sounds so fun. But boy, oh boy, I've never done it. So who knows?
If you want, okay. Once again, I don't want to make the episode super long, but I can I could keep going. I could keep going for as long because this is on your platform. We don't have that. We're not doing the trial.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
Bill, if you ever want to try a D&D thing, I would definitely say this, but also make sure the kiddos aren't in the room, because there's a language and other stuff. So you maybe play this when you and the missus are up and the kiddos are in bed.
Fair enough.
But if you want to try it, the best video game adaptation of any Dungeons and Dragons anything has been, bar none, Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay.
If you want to try, if that is like truly the most intensive, most like perfect one-to-one adaptation of a D&D game. I mean, yes, there are like, it's not linear, as in your playthrough is going to be 100 times different than someone else's playthrough.
Interesting.
Your choices can completely change the outcome of the game. It is so intense that like it is one of those games where it deserves Game of the Year. And people can, because I have a single player run through. I did get to reach the end credits. I haven't touched it again. I've been trying to play with my brother, and like when he and I were playing it first, I'm like, and when we got back together and started playing again, I was like, dude, we missed so much stuff.
That's crazy. That's so.
We
fun.
missed so much. We gotta go back.
That's fun. As someone who loves Fallout and again, immersive sims are my jam. So. Yeah, I think Baldur's Gate, it always seemed like a big barrier of entry. So I might have to give it a go. I'll put it on the old Steam list and see if it gets on sale. Maybe I'll give it a shot. I know people who absolutely adore it and streamed it. So I've seen some streams, and yeah.
I will say this. If you like Dungeons & Dragons, if you like Baldur's Gate 3, you're going to have a great time with Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, there is a few more steps to do with like actually getting a tabletop and,
Right.
Getting your group, and the dice rolls are a little bit different. Yep. But essentially, the way the game is played is the exact same. So if you like that stuff, fun, then you're gonna love D&D.
All right, I'll have to give it a shot, man. I'll have to give it a go.
All right. Well, anyways, Bill, thank you again so much for taking time every day to sit down and chat with me about the good old days, my friend. It's been a blast. Man. You have an open invitation. Just if you want to come back and talk about something, just hit me up. We'll set something up, my friend.
Right on, man. Same goes for you, my friend.
All righty. Well, until next time, everyone. Unpause.